Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano, here every week to break down all the things that are happening in pop culture and interviewing the people that make it pop. On today's show, we're talking all about the Traitors casting for season 3. Now, all right, a little backstory. The internet almost broke this week because, first of all, the first sort of announcement that came out was that Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton were back again. They were coming back to reality TV in some format, coming to Peacock. Peacock had been teasing it. And then NBC Universal did their upfronts, which, for those of you that don't know, all of the networks do these upfronts every year where they announce new shows. They talk about renewals. You know, it's just kind of it's a presentation, mostly for advertisers to kind of see, here's what's coming in our programming lineup and where you might want to get invested. So NBC Universal's doing this. And meanwhile, we had just gotten the news that Nicole and Paris were coming back. So as the presentation is coming to a close, or as they were working on preparing for the presentation, we get this article from The Sun reporting that the season 3 cast of The Traitors had been announced at the upfronts. And the announcement was that the cast, here's the list that they gave us, okay? The cast announcement was that it was Nicole and Paris, and that's how they were coming back to reality TV, which, mind-blowing. I have more to say about that in a minute. But Jax Taylor, Teresa Giudice, Kenya Moore, Joe Manganiello, Howie Mandel, Javier Poza, Matt Eisman, Kristen Kish, Holly Robinson Peete, and her husband Rodney. So right off the bat, this is clearly not a full cast list because the casts are typically about 20 people. So this is not enough. We clearly know that going in. So there was some speculation as to well, is this the full announcement? Why are they only announcing half of the cast? And also when you start thinking about the list here, you've got some goodies, right? You've got Jax, you've got Teresa, Kenya, even Kristen Kish could be great. But when you actually take a step back from it, you have to remember that the reason that this show is good is that people are competing to win the money. And just in real world challenges and things, people are looking to win the money. We all felt a certain kind of way for those of us that watched. And if you didn't, what are you doing? But for those of us that watched, we all felt a certain kind of way when MJ didn't get the prize pot at the end of the season last season. And it's because even though these people are reality stars and they're probably making more than, most people, they still want a prize pot of, $250,000 or whatever it ends up being. And so it still makes sense. When you start looking at some of the names on this list, Howie Mandel, for example, how much is Howie Mandel worth? A lot. Okay. But then when you think about this mind-blowing break the internet kind of news that Paris and Nicole are coming back in the Traitors, it does start to kind of put pause where you're well, do either of them need $250,000? Because let's be honest, they probably spend that in a day. So that's where it then it's well, are they going to compete for charity? But then there are other people on the list that you're they probably really need the money. So immediately the list is taking a little bit of shape in this strange way. I'll say when I first read it, I was gagged. I was wow, this is going to be incredible television. I was already okay, well, Nicole is going to make an incredible traitor while Paris is a faithful, and they're going to be at odds. I was a little gagged, but the more I thought about it, I was yeah, no, this isn't going to make sense. And then it was revealed that someone came out, and a source, how that goes. Somebody had said, this is not the cast list of the Traitors. Instead, what this was these are people and names of people that were filming sort of a skit for the upfronts. So something that they did that was just sort of fun to kind of acknowledge the shows that are on NBC Universal. and some of the things that are coming, Nicole and Paris being on Peacock in some capacity. And they did it in a Traitors sort of themed skit. And apparently, like the Sun or whomever leaked it to the Sun missed that it was a skit and thought that this was actually like the people being announced for the Traitors. So the Sun ran with it. And then we've now been told that we don't have a cast list. And so, what a wild roller coaster for Traitors fans it was this week. And I'm here for it, because I can't get enough of the Traitors, and so I was ready for the news, but of course am waiting patiently. But it did get me thinking, and which is what we're going to get to today. We're going to have a bit of a shorter episode today because, I was going to take a break for spring break, and just take a little bit of time off just to sort of replenish myself. We've got some exciting guests in queue coming up for some interviews, but was just going to kind of take a little break. And then I thought, I still want to give the people a little something. So we're going to have a couple of weeks where we've got some short episodes. I've got a very special one next week, just some thoughts about some big pop culture moments, or a big pop culture moment of the year so far. And then we'll be back with our pop culture roundup for May in 2 weeks. And I've got a very special guest joining me for that I cannot wait for. But today's show, I was like, I'm going to put together my ideal cast list and I want to share it with all of you. And I would love to hear your thoughts because I think that I've done something here. I feel like this cast list is very strong. Now, I will say the caveat on this is I don't watch Big Brother. I don't watch Survivor anymore. I watched like very, very early days. There were some other shows that I like thought about like potentially dipping into, but then I was like, I didn't know where to take it from there. So I I know that there are going to be people that feel like I haven't sort of covered all of the categories and all of the shows in the way that I know that Traitors producers are. So, but I still think that I have a very, very strong list. So it's half Bravo people. So that's the other caveat. But I think that we are onto something. So this is my ideal cast list for season 3 of The Traitors. Okay. So first, the Housewives category. For Housewives category, of course, I've got one of the queens of the Housewives, Teresa Giudice, because imagine her trying to flip that round table, right? I mean, she could get mad and just try to flip that round table. That would be epic, epic television. And then Dorinda. Okay, Dorinda Medley, though she's on pause indefinitely, and I feel as though, she really does want it a little bit too bad to be on television. She actually would make an incredible cast member for the Traitors because if she was a faithful and she learned who was a traitor and she wasn't onto them, I feel like the betrayal for her it would make fireworks on the show. So Dorinda Medley, and then I've said this actually on the podcast before. I want to see Luann de Lesseps and Alex McCord in some kind of capacity back on our screens. We did not get Alex on Ultimate Girls Trip from their Thailand episode or their Thailand season that I believe, will never see the light of day. But I want Alex back. I think Alex would be so full of strategy. She would come in and try to read people because, she's, a psychiatrist or something. Psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't know. But she is a doctor of medicine. And that she'd be coming in and like trying to flex in that kind of way. And, Luann sparring with her. And when Alex comes rushing into the room to share her theories, and Luann says, is that a buffalo? I mean, it would be epic moments for reality gold. So I'd love to see them back. And then the last housewife that I picked for ideal cast member is actually Dorit. And I feel like as though people might come for me for that. But really, the only reason that Dorit would be there is just so that I could see her try to have a fashion face off with Alan. I feel like every day Dorit would be bringing some look that would be so wild, and it would like she would never be able to dress for any of the challenges because she wouldn't know what to do, because that would just be like too basic for her. And I think that that could end up being really fun to watch. So my Housewives Traitors edition would be Teresa, Dorinda, Luann, Alex, and Dorit. Now, moving into non-housewives Bravo celebrities that I think would be epic on the Traitors. Paige DeSorbo, Summer House. Of course, I mean, I feel like every season needs one of the Bravo celebrities that's going to wear the beret. Paige is our girl. I mean, need I say any more? She's going to have like a closet full of berets, and she's going to be bringing it to the breakfast every morning. Need Paige on the Traitors. Next, I know she's booked and busy, but like Ariana, why stop there? Ariana Madix, come on, girl. Let's get her to Scotland. Let's get her in the castle. I want to see her on this show. I think that she's actually got like a lot of strategy, and I think she's like into gameplay. And so I think she'd get really into it, and I think she'd be amazing for the show. So would love to see that. Of course, her getting booked would also sort of like stick it to, Sandoval. And of course, Sheena's going to have lots of feelings. But I think that would be epic. The other one I would love to see on the show, Jason Chambers, our below deck daddy. I mean, I would love to see him on there. Everyone would have a crush on him. He would be Castle Daddy. He would be the CT of the season. So, would love Jason Chambers. I also think that the Traitors would be a great place to reintroduce Stassi Stassi Schroeder to the mix. And yeah, I again, almost like Dorinda, I feel like Stassi would have like such reactions about being betrayed. It would be epic. I would love to see Stassi back. And then lastly, Josh Flagg from Million Dollar Listing. I think like Josh, again, he just has this personality where I think that he's going to be like sensitive. He's going to feel like, he's going to, I mean, I don't think he could be a traitor. Maybe he could. He gives a little traitor energy, maybe, but I would love to see him as a faithful and be like very sensitive and be like the most faithful. I think that would be a great place for Josh Flagg. So those are my Bravo picks. Okay, so we've got our housewives, our Bravo celebrities. Now we just go into like reality TV, the world of reality TV for the rest of where I picked. And I did 20 because that's what we've had the last 2 seasons. Now, this first one is a legend in reality TV, and I don't align with her in any kind of way, nor do I even really want to support her. But Omarosa, I'm sorry, Omarosa on the Traitors would think that she like had everyone fooled, or she would think that she was running the ship, and she'd be like, "Oh, I know who they all are. I'm on it." But everyone would actually think she was a traitor. So I just think that she would make a perfect sort of contestant for the show. Also would love to see Kate Gosselin. Okay, another person. Don't align. I don't align with a lot of these people. Let's be real. But I think that like she's another one that just like she's angry and she's a little bit kooky, and I feel like she would like she could actually sway us too. She could like be like a wild card where we like didn't know we were going to love her, and then we like ended up loving her. So Kate Gosselin, sign her up. Richard Hack, the first Survivor winner. I just think like he in any kind of like capacity that we've seen him, he's a little bit unpredictable. He can fly off the handle. I think at a roundtable conversation, he would bring a lot. And then also bringing a lot of heat to the house would be Tiffany Pollard, because I'm sorry, she is epic television. Put her on anything, and I think that she's on there. The only reason that I'm like a little hesitant about her is that I think she was on the House of Villains, which if you guys haven't watched that, that's also really entertaining. And they just announced their season 2 cast. Some of the people on my list, by the way, I'm just now realizing that Teresa's on it, um, is on House of Villains. And I think Tiffany's coming back to House of Villains because she was so epic the first time around. So, it's like, do we need her also then on the Traitors? I don't know. But I do think that at some point getting her in that castle would be like television history would be made. And then this next one's a little bit of a wild card, but I shared last week on the podcast that I've been dipping my toe in selling the OC. I'm full fledged. I'm almost completely caught up on all 3 seasons within the week, guys. This is where we're at. Okay, I was starting last week. I'm almost finished this week. Luckily, they're short episodes, but I mean, I'm flying through it. I'm way more entertained by it than I was with Selling Sunset. And I think that Alex Hall from that show, for those of you that don't watch, she's the brunette. And like, if you saw her face, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know she's a reality star. Like, because she brings almost like Bethany, early Bethany energy, not current chaos Bethany. She brings early Bethany energy to the screen. Like, she's got something. And I feel like we need to actually see her outside of this sort of like scripted, non-scripted space and just like be in the castle with a bunch of reality stars and see how she interacts. Cause I think that she is someone to watch in the reality world. And then the next one is Savannah Chrisley. Guys, like, the Chrisleys have been through so much. We know that that family is going to need some money. So Savannah is going to be there and she is going to fight. She is going to fight for the honor of her family. She is going to be there for that money. I think Savannah Chrisley would be incredible on the Traitors. And then, we got to bring some male energy. And so why not pull that from the Jersey Shore, right? So The Situation has got to be on it. I think that I haven't seen a lot of this like new, what do they call it? Family Vacation or something. So I don't know a lot about where Mike The Situation is today. I know that I believe he's on a sober journey, that he's learned a lot about the person that he was back in the day. But I still think he's The Situation. He's a iconic reality star. And so I'd love to see him on the Traitors. I don't know that he would. I feel like, everyone's got to have somebody that gets voted off that first episode, like last year's Johnny Bananas. Feel like that might be The Situation. I feel like there's going to be people that are like, this guy is not going to be, he's going to be dead weight in terms of strategy. Let's get him out of here. So I feel like we're not going to get a lot of The Situation, but I think that he could make like a good impression on the show. And then I had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. One of my favorite real worlders, Danny Roberts from New Orleans. He was just on the podcast and he's vying for it, guys. Like, he wants a letter campaign. He wants to be on the Traitors. It's the only thing for those of you that didn't listen to the episode, Danny went into hiding. He was like on a trajectory of becoming like a huge heartthrob. And he was the face of the LGBT community for a little while, around, bringing the don't ask, don't tell policy to such a major platform like MTV. And he was on this like huge trajectory. He had signed a development deal with the CW network. And then he went into hiding in order to protect his relationship. And he's not on a lot of socials. He has not done a lot of stuff since then. I had to basically beg him to be on the podcast because he doesn't really do that kind of stuff. But the Traitors would bring him, I'm not going to say out of retirement, but it would bring him back to TV. And I think it would be great. He's so lovely. He would truly be the most faithful of the faithfuls. But he has a whole strategy. He's watched all the international ones. He's watched, of course, the US one. And he has a strategy for how he thinks he could win the Traitors. And he, of course, is not sharing it because he doesn't want to give away his secrets. He wants to be cast. So I'm giving him a spot on my dream cast. And then the final, because I actually thought last season having Marcus and oh my God, I almost said Lala, Larsa, Larsa and Marcus last season, I actually thought was a really interesting dynamic to have a couple and see how they could like potentially play where the couple doesn't know, the who's who. And if one of them is a traitor and one of them's a faithful, like how will that play out? And so I was like, I want to have a couple on the cast. I originally was like, maybe it's Paige and Craig, but I think that that's like too predictable. But this, and I think like, okay, again, I think I'm onto something here. I'm pretty proud of this one because I think that this could be sort of the Traitors' answer to the Nicole and Paris rumor that we had, but bringing back Heidi and Spencer. That's right, Spidey. Coming back for the Traitors. How epic. Having these two iconic reality stars. They're both a little cuckoo bananas, but like I think like they would, and they like, are clearly codependent on each other. I just think that it could be an incredible, incredible moment for reality TV to have them in the castle. Um, because they would try to like build alliances and they would be alliance with each other. But I think one of them has to be a traitor, right? Because then it like adds a whole new dynamic. So that is it. That is my dream cast for season 3 of The Traitors. We do not have any official news yet. So bravo if you're listening, or bravo, NBC if you're listening. This is where you guys need to look because I think I've got some really good picks here. What do you guys think? I would love to hear who is on your dream cast for this Traitors season 3. So let me know in the comments of wherever you found this show. Or, find me on socials. I'm at CM Vetrano. And thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble on about the Traitors so much in this last year. We've got more. When we get season 3, we're going to be talking about it. So stay tuned. Don't forget, rate and subscribe. And guys, thanks so much for listening. Until next week. Bye.